8 deadly plants to avoid in your garden. Listen up, fellow gardeners. I'm Sam from Seniors Gardening Advice, and what I'm sharing in this video could prevent a tragedy in your backyard. We're discussing plants so dangerous they've caused deaths, hospitalizations, and property destruction worth thousands of dollars. The beautiful shrub growing along your fence line might contain enough poison to stop a heart. That attractive ground cover spreading beneath your trees could be silently destroying your home's foundation. And one specimen we'll examine delivers pain so intense, victims have considered ending their lives just to escape the agony. This isn't your typical gardening advice. This is critical safety information every gardener needs to know. If this content proves valuable, show your support by clicking that like button and subscribing to Seniors Gardening Advice. Make sure to enable notifications because we're diving into information that could genuinely save lives and protect your property. Let's begin. Gympie-Gympie, Dendrocnide moroides, nature's torture device. We're starting with what botanical experts classify as the planet's most excruciating plant when discussing pure physical suffering. Allow me to introduce the Gympie-Gympie, an Australian menace that appears harmless but inflicts torment beyond human comprehension. What makes it catastrophic? This Australian stinging tree bristles with microscopic fragile hairs that inject what researchers characterize as the most unbearable plant sting documented in scientific literature, with sufferers describing it as experiencing acid burns while being electrocuted simultaneously. The truly horrifying aspect? These toxic hairs become lodged beneath your skin for 12 months or longer, perpetually releasing toxins when triggered by various stimuli, physical contact with the affected region, exposure to moisture, or shifts in ambient temperature. Consider this scenario. 6 months after accidentally brushing against this plant, you step into your shower and suddenly experience devastating pain erupting across your body. This nightmare represents actual reality with Gympie-Gympie exposure. Documented horror stories? Historical records from 1866 detailed a pack horse that became completely deranged following contact with this specimen, and laborers working throughout Queensland's rainforests now receive respirators, industrial-grade gloves, and antihistamine medications as standard safety measures. In uncommon yet verified incidents, this plant has resulted in fatalities among canines, horses, and human beings. Why individuals might cultivate it? Your initial reaction might be, who could possibly want this growing anywhere? Yet here's the surprising reality. It develops large, heart-shaped foliage that appears quite appealing, and certain exotic plant enthusiasts actively pursue it specifically because of its infamous reputation. Select botanical institutions maintain specimens under rigorous security protocols for educational demonstrations. The final verdict? Unless you possess credentials as a trained botanist operating within a supervised facility equipped with appropriate safety apparatus, absolutely zero justification exists for having this organism anywhere near your residential property. Medical science offers no antidote to its sting, and the suffering can continue for months or potentially years. This specimen unquestionably deserves its position at the summit of our Never Cultivate registry. Plant number 2, castor bean plant, the gorgeous killer. Let's examine a plant that's surprisingly prevalent in decorative gardens, despite harboring one of Earth's most lethal poisons. Castor bean plant generates substantial, theatrical foliage featuring magnificent crimson or violet leaves, establishing it as a preferred choice for introducing tropical character to garden spaces. The concealed peril. Most gardeners remain unaware of this critical fact. Castor beans contain ricin, ranking among the most powerful naturally occurring toxins worldwide. A solitary bean possesses sufficient lethality for a child, and merely several beans can terminate an adult's life. Ricin operates by preventing protein synthesis within cells, culminating in organ failure. Why it poses exceptional risk? The seeds present an attractive appearance and could entice inquisitive children or household pets. They display a mottled pattern that resembles decorative elements similar to natural beads. Before society comprehended the danger, castor beans occasionally found use in jewelry fabrication, producing tragic consequences. Simply handling the plant, followed by touching your facial area or mouth, can trigger serious complications. Should you crush the beans or seeds, you discharge ricin into the atmosphere, which becomes inhalable. Garden laborers have required emergency medical treatment solely from pruning these specimens without adequate protection. Why gardeners continue planting it? The organism develops rapidly, potentially achieving 10 to 12 feet within a single growing season, and delivers immediate visual impact through its bold, architectural foliage. Certain varieties showcase deep burgundy or bronze leaves that landscape architects adore. It's remarkably simple to cultivate from seed, explaining why numerous garden centers continue stocking it. Recommended action. Should castor bean plants currently exist in your garden and you have children, pets, or regular visitors, eliminate them without delay. Wear protective gloves, long-sleeved garments, and eye protection. Seal all plant material in bags and discard them through household waste collection. Never add them to compost. Thoroughly clean all implements and clothing afterward. The hazard simply doesn't justify the aesthetic value. Numerous bold foliage alternatives exist that won't jeopardize your family's well-being.
Plant number 3, giant hogweed, or Heracleum montegazianum, the fire-free burn machine. Giant hogweed sounds like something extracted from fantasy literature, yet this invasive monster exists quite tangibly and spreads throughout North America and Europe. It achieves heights approaching 14 feet with enormous umbrella-shaped flower arrangements that appear impressive while concealing a malevolent secret. The toxic menace. Giant hogweed manufactures a transparent, watery sap containing toxic compounds designated furanocoumarins. When this substance contacts your skin, followed by sunlight exposure, it triggers a condition termed phytophotodermatosis. Essentially, the chemicals render your skin hypersensitive to ultraviolet radiation, producing severe burns, blistering, and permanent scarring. Real-world ramifications. Victims have experienced third-degree burns from minimal contact. Children playing near these specimens have required hospitalization with painful blisters covering their limbs. The burns frequently leave permanent scars and dark pigmentation persisting for years. Should the sap enter your eyes, it can produce temporary or even permanent vision loss. Why it proliferates. Invasive organisms reproduce through seeds, stems, and root systems, dispersing via wind, avian carriers, or transportation by humans and animals, and can expand rapidly, suffocating indigenous plants and decimating wildlife habitat. Individual giant hogweed specimens can generate up to 20,000 seeds, with those seeds maintaining viability within soil for 5 years maximum. Identification proves critical. Giant hogweed frequently gets confused with other substantial plants, like cow parsnip or angelica. Key distinguishing characteristics include its tremendous size, purple spotted stems, and white flower clusters potentially spanning 2 to 3 feet across. The foliage can achieve 5 feet width with serrated edges. Legal complications. Throughout numerous regions, it's actually unlawful to plant, propagate, or transport giant hogweed. Various states and provinces mandate reporting requirements upon discovering it on your property. This represents one of those organisms where governmental agencies will actually assist with removal because they consider it such a grave threat. Removal protocol. Never attempt removing giant hogweed personally without proper protection. You require complete body coverage, facial shield, and gloves. Professional removal services exist specifically for this plant. Even following removal, the area demands monitoring for years because of those persistent seeds.
Plant number 4, Japanese knotweed, Fallopoeia japonica, the foundation annihilator. Here's an organism that might not terminate your life, but will definitely devastate your property value and potentially your home's structural integrity. Japanese knotweed ranks among the world's worst invasive species, and throughout the UK, having it on your property can render your house literally unmarketable. The invasion catastrophe. Originally introduced as an ornamental specimen, Japanese knotweed spreads uncontrollably, overwhelming everything in its territory. This plant develops at terrifying velocity, up to 10 centimeters daily during peak growth periods. Its root system can extend 10 feet deep and 23 feet horizontally from the primary plant. Structural devastation. Japanese knotweed can penetrate concrete, asphalt, and even building foundations. It exploits microscopic fissures and forces them progressively wider. Property owners have discovered it emerging through their floorboards, surfacing from walls, and destroying patios plus driveways. Throughout the UK, mortgage lenders frequently refuse financing properties with Japanese knotweed infestations. Professional elimination can range from $3,000 to exceeding $20,000, and typically requires multiple years of treatment for complete eradication. Why it defies control? The organism disperses through minuscule fragments of root material. A root piece matching your fingernail size can generate a new plant. This means improper removal, such as excavating it and disposing the soil, merely spreads the invasion to fresh locations. You cannot compost it, you cannot simply extract it, and cutting it down actually stimulates more regressive development. The plant possesses virtually zero natural predators outside its native Japan, so nothing exists to keep it controlled. The criminal element. In certain jurisdictions, permitting Japanese knotweed to spread from your property to neighboring properties can result in legal proceedings. You can face lawsuits from neighbors for property damage, and some areas maintain laws specifically targeting Japanese knotweed management. Why people still cultivate it? Surprisingly, some gardeners still seek it because it displays attractive bamboo-like stems and creates dense privacy barriers. Others receive it unknowingly when purchasing soil, mulch, or other plants from contaminated sources. Prevention remains everything. The only winning strategy with Japanese knotweed involves never allowing it to establish on your property initially. Should you detect it early, contact local authorities immediately. Many areas maintain specialist removal services, and certain government programs will assist with eradication expenses because of the serious threat it presents to infrastructure.
Plant number 5. Monkshood, the wolf's bane. Monkshood generates absolutely magnificent purple-blue flowers resembling medieval helmets or hoods, explaining how it acquired its designation. It's a popular ornamental in cottage gardens and perennial borders. It's also among the most toxic plants cultivable. The poison composition? Every component of monkshood contains aconitine, an extremely potent alkaloid poison. Even minimal quantities can prove deadly, with certain specimens requiring consumption of merely 1 or 2 seeds to trigger severe poisoning. Aconitine affects cardiac and nervous systems, producing numbness, tingling, irregular heartbeat, and potentially fatal cardiac arrest. The concealed danger? Unlike various toxic plants tasting terrible, monkshood roots can be mistaken for edible roots like horseradish. Documented cases exist of gardeners accidentally consuming monkshood with fatal outcomes. Even touching the plant, followed by eating food without washing hands, can produce serious symptoms. Aconitine absorbs through skin, meaning you needn't ingest the plant to suffer poisoning. Gardeners pruning these specimens have experienced numbness and cardiac palpitations solely from dermal contact. Historical darkness? Monkshood possesses a dark history as poison. Ancient civilizations used it to tip arrows and spears, granting it the nickname wolfsbane because it served for wolf extermination. Throughout history, it's been implicated in murders and poisonings. Why gardeners cherish it? Despite its hazards, monkshood appears beautiful. It blooms during late summer when numerous perennials fade, providing vertical interest through its tall flower spikes. It's also relatively simple to cultivate in partial shade and moist soil, establishing it as a favorite for woodland gardens. The deep blue-purple coloration remains highly sought after in ornamental gardening, and the plant demonstrates deer resistance because, well, even deer know better than to consume it. Safety considerations. If you insist on cultivating monkshood despite the hazards, implement extreme precautions. Always wear gloves when handling it. Wash hand thoroughly afterward, and never plant it anywhere children or pets can access it. Position it behind other plants to discourage accidental contact. However, the safest option involves simply choosing one of the numerous beautiful alternatives. Delphiniums, salvias, and catmint all provide similar height and blue-purple flowers without the lethal toxicity.
Purple loosestrife, Lythrum salicaria, the wetland destroyer. Purple loosestrife appears absolutely stunning in garden catalogs. Tall spikes covered in vibrant magenta purple flowers blooming for months. Garden centers still market sterile cultivars of this organism. Yet here's the complication. Sterile doesn't always guarantee sterile. The ecological catastrophe. Nationally, purple loosestrife receives classification as extremely invasive, particularly in wet regions, where the organism completely displaces other species and destroys wildlife habitat. Individual mature plants can manufacture over 2.5 million seeds annually, and those seeds can maintain viability in soil for decades. Environmental destruction. Purple loosestrife invades wetlands, marshes, and stream banks, forming dense monocultures that exclude native plants. When native plants vanish, so do the insects, birds, and other wildlife depending on them. Waterfowl lose nesting habitat, fish lose spawning grounds, and entire ecosystems collapse. Estimates suggest that purple loosestrife has invaded hundreds of thousands of acres throughout North America, causing millions of dollars in ecological damage. Wetlands that once supported diverse plant and animal communities become biological deserts dominated by a single aggressive exotic species. The sterile cultivar myth. Garden centers frequently sell varieties labeled as sterile or non-invasive, yet research has demonstrated these cultivars can still cross-pollinate with wild types, producing fertile offspring. Even if your purchased plant doesn't spread, it might be enabling the spread of nearby wild populations. Why gardeners desire it? Purple loosestrife is admittedly gorgeous. It thrives in challenging conditions, handles wet soil that kills other perennials, and provides months of colorful blooms. For gardeners dealing with poorly drained areas, it seems like the perfect solution. It's also attractive to pollinators, which sounds positive, but this actually worsens the problem. Bees visiting your garden purple loosestrife might then visit wild plants, facilitating cross-pollination and spread. Superior alternatives. Fortunately, excellent native alternatives exist. Throughout North America, species like blue vervain, ironweed, and purple blazing star provide similar height and color without the ecological devastation. Native plants support local ecosystems instead of destroying them. Legal status. Purple loosestrife faces bans in many states and provinces. It's illegal to sell, plant, or transport it. Should you have it on your property, you may be legally required to remove it. Check your local regulations. You might be surprised to discover you're inadvertently harboring an illegal plant.
Plant number 7. English ivy, Hedera helix, the tree strangler. English ivy probably already exists in your garden or your neighbor's. It's among the most common ornamental ground covers and climbing vines in temperate regions worldwide. It's also a serious ecological threat and structural hazard that many gardeners don't recognize until too late. The concealed threat. English ivy looks charming climbing walls and trees, creating that classic European garden aesthetic. Yet left unchecked, invasive organisms can spread rapidly, suffocating native plants and the flowers and shrubs you've cultivated. When English ivy climbs trees, it adds massive weight to branches, making them more likely to break during storms. The dense ivy coverage also traps moisture against tree bark, promoting rot and fungal diseases. Eventually, heavily infested trees die. Property damage. On buildings, English ivy works its way into mortar joints, under siding, and into any small cracks. As it develops, it forces these gaps wider, causing serious structural damage. Removing well-established ivy from brick or stone can actually pull the surface material away, causing permanent damage. The ivy also harbors moisture against building foundations and walls, leading to rot, mold, and structural decay. Homeowners' insurance claims related to ivy damage are surprisingly common. Ecological impact. As invasive plant populations expand, natural habitat degrades and plant diversity decreases, limiting critical resources needed by native insects, birds, and other wildlife. English ivy creates biological deserts on the forest floor, where its dense mats prevent native wildflowers, ferns, and tree seedlings from establishing. The bird problem. Many people believe English ivy helps birds by providing nesting sites in berries. While it's true that some birds nest in ivy, the berries are actually low in nutrition compared to native plant fruits. Worse, dense ivy infestations can support higher populations of nest predators like rats. Control proves difficult. The optimal method for controlling aggressive garden organisms involves containers or continual pruning, with roots confined to pots preventing spreading. Yet English ivy frequently escapes any containment attempt. It spreads through both seeds and vegetative growth, and stem fragments can root anywhere they touch ground. Why it maintains popularity. English ivy is inexpensive, grows almost anywhere, provides year-round green color, and establishes quickly. For gardeners facing difficult shady sites with poor soil, it seems like a miracle solution. Superior choices. Native ground covers like wild ginger, native ferns, or woodland phlox provide similar coverage without the invasive behavior. If you need a climbing vine, consider native options like Virginia creeper or trumpet vine, which support native wildlife. Should English ivy already exist on your property, commit to maintaining strict control. Never permit it to climb trees or structures. Better yet, remove it entirely and replace it with something that won't eventually require professional remediation services.
Plant number 8. Oleander, the deceptive beauty. Let's conclude with a plant combining stunning beauty with deadly toxicity. Oleander is an evergreen shrub producing gorgeous flowers in pink, white, red, and yellow. It's drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, and thrives in hot climates. It's also so poisonous that eating a single leaf can be fatal. The toxic reality. Even common garden flowers like oleander should be handled with care due to their toxic properties. Oleander contains cardiac glycosides similar to those in digitalis, foxglove. These compounds affect heart rhythm and can cause cardiac arrest. Every component of the plant is toxic: leaves, flowers, stems, and seeds, even the nectar. The toxins remain dangerous even in dead, dried plant material. People have been poisoned by burning oleander branches and inhaling the smoke, or by using oleander twigs as skewers for roasting food. Deadly scenarios. Children have died from simply sucking on oleander flowers or chewing leaves. Pets, particularly dogs, frequently require emergency treatment after oleander ingestion. Even small amounts cause vomiting, irregular heartbeat, and potentially death. Honey made from oleander nectar is toxic. Water that cut oleander stems have been sitting in can cause poisoning if consumed. The sap can cause severe skin irritation and eye damage. Why it's everywhere. In warm climates, oleander is a landscaping staple. Highway departments plant thousands of them along roadways because they're tough, require minimal maintenance, and tolerate pollution and poor soil. Commercial properties use them for hedges and privacy screens. Homeowners love them because they develop quickly, bloom prolifically from spring through fall, and come in a range of attractive colors. In Mediterranean climate regions, oleander provides that classic resort garden aesthetic. The risk evaluation. The issue isn't whether oleander is beautiful or tough. It clearly is. The question is whether that beauty justifies the risk. If you have children, pets, or anyone vulnerable visiting your property, the answer is probably negative. Even if you exercise caution, what about visiting grandchildren, the neighbor's dog, or wildlife? Birds sometimes consume the seeds and can be poisoned. All it takes is one mistake, one moment of inattention, and you could be facing a tragedy. Safer alternatives. For warm climate gardens, consider hibiscus, butterfly bush, or bottlebrush shrubs. These provide similar size, flowering impact, and drought tolerance without the extreme toxicity. If you need an evergreen hedge, numerous non-toxic options exist, including Texas sage, myrtle, or many native shrubs.
So there you have it. 8 plants you should never grow in your garden. Gympie-Gympie, the world's most painful plant. Castor bean, containing deadly ricin. Giant hogweed, which causes severe burns. Japanese knotweed, known for destroying foundations. Monkshood, toxic even to touch. Purple loosestrife, which devastates wetlands. English ivy, a strangler of trees and structures. And oleander, a beautiful but lethal shrub. Gardening isn't just about beauty, it's about responsibility. Always research before planting and never assume something is safe just because it's sold at a nursery or grown by neighbors. Inspect your garden for these species and handle removal carefully, wearing protection and disposing of waste safely. Share this knowledge to help others protect their families, pets, and the environment. Thousands of safe and stunning plants are available, so choose wisely and garden responsibly. Thanks for watching, and remember, garden smartly and safely.